Oh, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't even see you there. Well, I guess since you're here, I'll just record another video for the travel buffet. So welcome, welcome all. My name is Jordan and I am the host of all of the videos on the Travel Buffet YouTube channel. And I am here today to tell you that Europe is cool. So if you didn't know it, I'm actually a travel agent and I just like to do these videos for fun, but it is also kind of helpful and informative for some people that I book trips for. And so I've been finding that Europe has been, on an uptrend, especially the past couple, decades really, that traveling between countries has been more accessible than ever. But even more recently, international travel has become exceptionally cheap compared to what it used to be in the past. And so I find that a lot of people want to hop the pond from the United States over to Europe and check out all of the exciting and unique cultures that you can find in faraway places. So I personally love Europe. I have made several trips there myself, and I'm looking at making two more trips there later this year, so that's exciting in and of itself. My first trip is going to be in October with my mama, and Mamma Mia, we're going to Tuscany, so that's going to be so fun. I know, I'm sorry, I'm feeling the bad dad jokes today, so I'm like really sorry in advance for anything that I say or do on this video. But then later this year in December, my husband Craig and I are going to be going over to Amsterdam for a quick 5-day trip, but I scored an awesome deal on gate1.com, which is one of the booking sources that I use as a travel agent. They run a lot of flash sales, and we found a flash sale that got us to Amsterdam for 5 days for $1,376. That includes flights and hotel for 2 people. So I felt like that was a bit of a steal, considering that international flights, you can find them around $1,000 per person usually outside of Indianapolis. So it just felt irresponsible not to take advantage of that. Oh, had to do it. So, but for anyone who's never been to Europe before, I do have some travel tips for you, because you may be thinking, well, I've got my trip to Europe planned now, but how do I actually prepare to get myself over there? Because they speak different languages, they use different currencies, things like that. These are all things that you need to think about ahead of time. So today I'm here to tell you my 7 tips for what you can do to prepare for a trip to Europe. So tip number 1, and this may be obvious, but if it's not obvious, then you're welcome. You're gonna need a passport to get yourself over there. A US passport as an adult is typically valid for 10 years, so you're probably covered, but you wanna double check. If you already have a passport, you wanna make sure that it's not expired and that it also doesn't expire 6 months after your travel dates, because many US carriers like airlines and travel companies require that you actually have your passport valid 6 months after you return from your trip. So let's say I'm going to Amsterdam in December of 2019, I have to make sure that my passport is valid through June of 2020. Otherwise they won't let me enter another country or come back into the United States. So this is a really important step. And also, if you have never gotten a passport before, it's become a relatively simplified process as opposed to, all of the steps and layers that it used to be in the past. This can be done through your local post office, and sometimes you need to make an appointment, sometimes you can just show up. It just kind of depends on the day and your local area. So do be sure to check out your local post office's policies. But I do have an article that I wrote a couple months ago on everything that you need to know about applying for and renewing or making changes to your US passport. So I've got that linked below, and you can check that out and learn everything you could have ever possibly hoped and dreamed to know about passports. Number 2, so I mentioned that most European countries don't run on the US dollar. Spoiler alert, it's all of them. So it's important to know which country takes which European currency, especially if you're going to be visiting multiple countries. So for example, London is on the British pound sterling, but then if you go over to Ireland, you will need the euro, and then let's say you decide to go to Switzerland and you need the Swiss franc. So a couple things to note about currency here. I usually recommend, let's say you're spending at least 3 days in a foreign city, I think you should have at least 100 units of that currency in cash. That way you can tip taxi drivers. Europe is also much of a cash economy, and so many places won't accept card. So for this reason, you'll want to be prepared with some cash as well. I find that I get a great rate by ordering banknotes through my local bank. But if for some reason you wait too long for this, be sure that you don't go to the currency exchange places like at the airports. Like those always have a ridiculous fee on top of them to exchange currency out. But you can go to a local ATM, like once you get into the city, and make a withdrawal for, you know, cash back directly from your debit card. And depending on your carrier, they've got different foreign transaction fees. I really love my credit card, which is the Chase Sapphire, and there are no foreign transaction fees on it as well. So just keep that in mind. There are a couple different ways to get currency, but you should be covered with at least 100 units of each currency for any city that you decide to go to. Now, if you're staying all within, you know, England and they're all in the same currency, you might want to take that rate and multiply it by however many days you're going to be in England. But as far as the rest of them goes, I'd say that's a good rule of thumb. And speaking of your bank, this brings me to suggestion number 3, and that is to notify your bank of your travel dates. So this has become exceptionally easy to do. You can either call the phone number that's on the back of your card and say, hey bank, this is when I am going out of the country. Here are my dates. Please don't shut off my card while I'm out there. Otherwise I'll have no money while I'm there. But a lot of banks will actually let you do this on their mobile apps or on their website nowadays. And so you can just hop online and go I am going out of the country, submit, and then you're covered. So this is especially important even if you're going somewhere like Canada. Like this happened to us a couple years ago when we went to Canada, and my mom's card got shut off because she forgot to notify them, because quote unquote Canada is pretty much the United States anyway, right? Sorry, Canadians, it's not. I know it's not. But this is a really important step if you want to be able to use money while you're abroad. And I got pickpocketed while I was abroad in Italy. Whew. And to think that I'm going back there, what am I thinking? Because it's beautiful and there's wine and pizza and gelato. But so I got pickpocketed while I was out there, and I was in college, and I called my parents crying, and I was like, what do I do? And they were actually able to wire me money to a Western credit union. So if for some reason you find yourself in a predicament where your wallet gets stolen, that's another option that you can keep in mind as well, so that you're not stranded and slumming it and bumming it while abroad, because that is no fun. So number 4, the next thing you want to think about is what your cell phone usage is going to look like while you're abroad. Now, it just kind of really depends on the length of your stay for this one. So like when I studied abroad, I actually got a European SIM card, and I put this in my phone, and I had it for like a month and a half, and that was really convenient. But they give you like your own European phone number, and this makes it so that you can contact other local businesses and things like that within that country. It makes it a lot easier and simplified to do that. However, if you're only going to be gone for like a week or 2 weeks, you may want to just check with your carrier and see what their international plans look like. So another example with myself, I use Verizon, and they offer a great package that is only $10 per day, and that is for unlimited data, text messages, and calls. And that's within the country that I'm in, that's back home, that's to whomever possible. So if you're the kind of person that's constantly working and constantly needs access to your phone, you may want to look into something like that. And the great thing about that plan is that if you decide one day you don't want to use it, you just leave your phone on airplane mode and they won't charge you. But as soon as your phone starts roaming and looking for a signal, then bam, Verizon's on it, and they give you the $10 charge, and you're good for the whole day. So you'll want to make those decisions in the morning, because you wouldn't want to accidentally turn on your phone at like, 7 o'clock at night, and you're going to bed in 4 hours and you get charged the whole $10 day. That would kind of suck. But it's great. It's a much more affordable plan than it used to be in the past. And if you don't do anything at all, and you just leave your phone on, you will be charged an exorbitant amount of money to place calls and text messages and use data. So I highly encourage looking this up ahead of time and making a plan for yourself. And another thing to consider as well is that you can pretty much get by on Wi-Fi only, especially if you're not the kind of person that needs to be texting or calling all the time. And with the luxury of the internet these days, you can do things like FaceTiming over Wi-Fi or Facebook calling, Facebook messaging, things like that, different apps that have messenger features over the internet. And you'll find whether you're in your hotel or in a cafe or a restaurant, a lot of times they'll offer you free Wi-Fi. So you can kind of just hop from place to place and hope that you find Wi-Fi, and you pretty much will find it just about everywhere you go. Okay, so now for tip number 5, I highly recommend that you research your excursions ahead of time. So you don't necessarily have to book them all ahead of time, but I highly encourage at least looking at them and kind of making a plan for what you want to do in each place. A lot of times tickets can be purchased online ahead of time. So for example, like I'm going to Amsterdam, I keep going back to this example, Amsterdam in December, and we want to go to the Anne Frank house, but I hear that this constantly sells out and that there's a line out the door the day of to buy tickets. It takes like 3 hours. It's worse than any Disney World park line ever. So I have researched this and found that you can purchase tickets ahead of time, and they pretty much sell out on the website like the day that they're available. So I have a calendar reminder on my calendar, which would make it a calendar reminder, for the Anne Frank House Museum, so that I can purchase my tickets immediately when they go on sale, which is 2 months ahead of time, and make sure I secure our tickets so that we don't, 1, have to wait in line, or 2, have to forego going to this museum because it's something that we both really want to do. So just look at the top attractions that you really want to go to, and even when you're doing research, you might find a couple of things that you didn't realize that you wanted to go to, and you might have otherwise missed out on the opportunity. So it doesn't hurt to do a little bit of research, and if you find that you don't have enough time to do research, your handy dandy travel agent can always help you with that and steer you in the right direction. So it's just something to keep in mind. So tip number 6, you should check out what foreign languages they speak in your country that you're traveling to. So I mean, if you're going to England, that's pretty safe and straightforward. Like, you know, they're going to speak English there, even if it sounds kind of strange. Oh God, that was awful. But let's say you're going to like Spain or Italy or Greece, especially if you're going to like the countryside, not to a larger city in one of these countries, you will definitely want to study up on some of the key phrases in those places in their languages. Things like hello, goodbye, please, thank you. Numbers, I highly encourage you to look up numbers at least 1 through 10, so that way you can cover the spectrum. We found that when we went to Paris a couple years ago, we took a lot of taxi rides, and a lot of the taxi drivers didn't speak English. That was probably the biggest language barrier that we had in Paris, was the taxi drivers. And I found that it was really helpful to know the number system, so that way, you know, I can kind of sound out the name of a street, but if I don't know how to say the number 7 and I need to go to 77 Rue de la Vue, oh God, that was bad too. I'm sorry everybody, it's been a weird day. How am I supposed to say that to him? Because I don't know it. So, and you can always, you know, type it out on your phone and show it to them, which is honestly what we had to do sometimes, but it would be much easier if you could just communicate it with them. Other things to know, you know, if beer is real important to you, I like to know how to say beer everywhere I go, or wine, just, you know, little things like that. And also the bathroom, be sure you know how to say bathroom in whatever language you need to know, because that is pretty important. And I will say certain countries are better about speaking English than others, and you will find English speakers all over Europe. Pretty much the rule of thumb is like the farther south you go in Europe, the more likely you're gonna need an English translator, or the farther east that you go. So like the north and the northwest are all pretty good about English. And number 7 of my tips for you is to be sure that you purchase converters and adapters ahead of time. So not everybody is on the same electrical frequency that the United States is on, probably because that we love to suck energy. No, I don't really know what it is actually, but I do know that you have to get these if you plan to use any of your electric devices that need to be plugged into the wall while you're abroad. So this is things like, you know, hair dryers, hair straighteners, curling irons, cell phone chargers, laptop chargers, things like that, you will definitely need an adapter and a converter. So I wanted to give you a quick rundown of what the differences are between those two. I've actually got two here for you to look at as an example. So this is one that I purchased for a trip to Scotland last year, and as you can see on the back, it's got these 3 prongs. This is what the UK outlets look like. The ones for the European Union are a little bit different. It's more like the bottom prong isn't there, and there's just 2 round prongs on the back. But you'll definitely need something to switch it over, because it doesn't look anything like the United States prongs. They're not flat and skinny. So, but this one is nice because it has 4 USB slots in it, and a lot of the things that I use, like my Fitbit charger, my cell phone charger, are all USB. So having 4 all in one location makes it really easy, and a lot of European destinations have a lot less outlets, I've noticed, especially if you're staying in like a historic building of some kind. It's really helpful to have a plug that can take multiple cords. So, but this right here, so this is an adapter. Now, the reason is, and the easiest way for me to remember this, is that it adapts from one plug to the next plug. It doesn't change the frequency of the electric current that's running through it, it just changes the prongs. Now, a converter, and I hope I don't have this backwards, God, please don't let me have this backwards. A converter actually changes the voltage to the new electric current in your destination. And so this one is important for things like hair dryers, laptop chargers, things that typically are a little bit more powerful than just like your standard phone charger. So I have this one. You can see it's got the plug for the US, and then actually on the back of this one, it's got multiple adapters, and I can kind of slide it to do different things, which is really convenient, because like that one that I just showed you only works for the United Kingdom, but like this one, for example, is definitely going to be able to be used while I'm in Amsterdam and Italy later this year. So I won't have to buy a different one. I will have to get a different adapter. So, but I will say it's very important to study up and have a plan about this ahead of time, because I have blown out a couple of hair straighteners before while I've been abroad. Totally like burnt them out. It's weird stuff happens when electricity doesn't have the proper voltage. So be sure you're careful about this, because you don't want to have to replace your $100 hair straightener. That would be no fun. So that is it on all of my Europe tips for you guys. Hopefully you learned something that you didn't know already, or if you knew all this already, then you know more than me, and props to you for being a well-traveled Europe person. So good job. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And if you have done so already, I love you a lot. Mwah. And I hope to see you in my next video. I do make new videos every Wednesday. But in the meantime, you can come say hi to me on my social media, which is at The Travel Buffet. And I also have a website with longer blog posts that is www.thetravelbuffet.com. And I think that's all I've got for you. So until my next video, I will see you guys later.